Didn't call this meeting to order. Mitch, call the roll, please.
Alphon.
Here.
Dr. Melhouse. Here. Dr. Nystrom.
Here.
Stephen.
Here.
Richard.
Here. And recognition of visitors. We don't have anything there, correct?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Consideration of the agenda. Anything to add or remove? Any comments?
Nope.
Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda as published.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? If you're hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
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 Okay, hearing of delegations. At this point of the meeting, we'd like to hear from community members that are here to address the board. I will say quickly, in keeping with the National Character Counts philosophy, the Boone Community School Board promotes and models the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting this meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a manner consistent with these principles. I won't put any time constraints on speakers. I mean, I want you to have time to express your thoughts and concerns. I just ask that you be respectful of everyone's time, including yours, and we'd be happy to hear from you at this point. If you'd like to address the board, please step up here and state your name for the record.
I'm Dylan Lorenzen. It's come to my attention today, as much as a bunch of other parents, on the book. It's quite a surprise to a lot of us, honestly. The email was easily overlooked or not sent through or to a lot of people. I argue back and forth with that or what have you. But I've looked at book reviews on this book, and I don't even know how you can take portions of this book to recommend it for preschool to first grade. These are 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds. Like, this does not seem very appropriate. Like, maybe beginning of middle school ages might be more appropriate. Like, puberty stage was middle school. Like, so this is what I'm here to talk about. This is quite shocking for me, because I have a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old turning 8, learning about stuff they shouldn't really. I don't know if they would learn about it. I don't know what pages you guys wouldn't show. Yeah, that's scary to me. Being a parent and having a daughter, you know. Sorry. I don't know. Have you guys looked through this book or seen a review? The full book?
No, Amazon.
Okay, well, they don't even show pictures when they're doing reviews. It's almost like you have to go to an adult website just to see what this children's book is trying to teach. It's shocking. How can this even be a reference? You know, with the age group. That's it.
Thank you.
Jordan Hammer, we got 2 girls, one in Page and one in Franklin. I'm here about the same thing. If any of you can look at any of this context, and I don't care whether we're using pages 17, pages 18, pages whatever. I went all the way to Ames after meeting someone earlier just to get this book. I got this book, I brought it home. I went through this thing from beginning to end. There is absolutely no part of this book that should be getting taught to little boys and girls that age. I understand what the goal is with doing it. You know, sexual abuse is a thing that does occur, and it's a just evil thing. But the thing that gets me the most is we trust these teachers, these administrators with our precious cargo every single day. And this board cannot sit here and tell me with a straight face that the material in this book, when they come together to decide the curriculum for this, that this would be anything remotely close to something my girls need to see. Now, my boy, he took a puberty class at middle school. We had no problems. The guy was very professional. The curriculum was good. Not a single issue. But if anyone on this board can give me a reason why my 5-year-old little girl needs to see the erect penis and be explained to how that is suitable for her to learn, She doesn't come in there when I'm in the bathroom. My daughters do not see me in that fashion at all, and I make sure of it. But for whatever reason, this group of adults in our district, whom I trust with my kids, think that it is a good idea to pull out pictures of penises, vaginas, boobs. I don't know if any of you have seen, but I ain't about it. There's no reason. At 5 years old, my little one, Gracie, she's learning how to ride her bike without training wheels. That's what she needs to be concerned with. Not worrying about what a penis, vagina, clitoris is, self-touching, and all the other garbage that is in that book. 100% garbage. No kid should be doing that. And furthermore, this is where I get irritated because we as parents, I am sick of this crap. Our kids are just dollar bills. We need to be consulted with stuff like this. We need to be thought about with stuff like this. So I assure you, any of you that have young daughters in here would not be okay with a penis being just showed to them at 5 years old. If you do, we can have a debate about that. I put up with a lot of stuff. My little girl being restrained and put in a restraint room in preschool. My 9-year-old son being talked to about vaccinations. The masking. And now this. Do parents mean anything to this school district, to this board? Because stuff like this shows us the exact opposite. We are not the only parents. I know the superintendent got some calls today. My messengers get blown up with people not happy about it. And if anyone on this board can go look at this book, then you send me an email and you explain to me as a father how any of that material is suitable for my daughter. Either one of them. Not just my daughter, his daughter. That's my coworker. My neighbor's daughters, boys and girls. And gender identity, there's 2 genders, boy, girl. That's it. In my eyes, and that's what I'm going to preach to my kid. And I am not going to have the school district intrude on me as a parent and confuse my daughter, making her think she can identify as a toaster if she wants to. And that's some more of the garbage that is in this book. Now, you guys are really teetering the line when people are going to start yanking their kids and homeschooling and taking them to other districts. And I bet you there's going to be a lot of them leaving after this. The other stuff, sure, whatever. Masking, oh yeah, pandemic, okay, whatever. Start talking about genitals, masturbation, gender identity with their 5 to 7-year-olds. I guarantee you're going to start having people on both sides of that aisle. I don't know what is going on, if this board was even aware, but if you guys aren't aware, you need to get aware because this should not be getting taught to little kids. We will have that discussion with our children. We, the parents, they're our children. The district's dollars. There's a difference. That's all I got to say.
Hi, so I'm Miranda Horn. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. My 5-year-old is in TK, so this is the 2nd year with the district, and my 2-year-old is on the 2-year. But I'm here to address the district in a slightly different manner. I think it's a completely appropriate lesson for our children. I think it's important that they know everybody has bodies for this to be addressed, especially at this age, because at this point, they're not sexual beings, they're children. And so that's why it's important for them to know we have bodies. Everybody has a body. Literally everyone owns a body, and it's okay for us to protect our bodies and say no, which is the point of this lesson. It's teaching consent. It's teaching that everybody's body is different and it's theirs. And I think that's an important lesson. And I did look at the book, which got pulled, by the way. I hope they won't believe by that. It's not, it's not an issue at this point. It's been pulled. It was reviewed. They acknowledged that maybe that was inappropriate, and it's been pulled. So the lesson that they're focusing on now is completely appropriate for these kids and kind of necessary. Like, this is the youngest age to be teaching it, and that's the best age to do so, because you want to get to it before there's a problem. And teaching these kids that this is their body, that they have bodily autonomy, and that it is their right to say no. That's a great lesson for every young child to know and to hear from not just their parents. It's good for them to hear from other safe adults, because God forbid anything happened to them. Now they know they have this many safe adults they can go to. It's not just us. We have a community that are. If something were to happen to my child, I would want them to know that they could trust anyone in this. And that's important to me. And that's why I'm glad this school is doing this for them. I want them to have that safety net in the event that if something were to happen, it's not just me they could talk to. There's so many other adults who love and care for my child that they can reach out to. That's why I think this lesson is important. So I totally agree with you. They don't necessarily need to see all this input. I'm all right with that part being input, but please don't argue with them on the rest of it, and how important it is for the children. Because they really do need that lesson. That was all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to be on her side as well. My name's Nikki Palmer. I have a 6-year-old little boy in Lincoln Elementary. This particular subject hits home, unfortunately. And one thing I will say is everyone's arguing that these children are too young. Sexual assault, abuse, molestation has no age limit. It starts when our children are this age because they are so innocent. They don't know any better. And the one thing that we can do is give them the tools and the knowledge to know that that's not okay. They are less likely to become victims if they know how to stop the situation or know their rights before it even happens. I don't think the goal today was to let parents think that we were going to have a full-blown sex education class with our children. That obviously is inappropriate. It is, however, necessary for our children to know the proper names and identification of each one of the body parts, not only for this specific situation, but God forbid they have something happening to them medically without this. They need to know how to properly express themselves and be comfortable with doing so because their body is nothing to be ashamed of. This is a very important thing to me because I was 6 years old when I experienced sexual abuse. It happened in my backyard on my swing set by a family member that everyone trusted. Nobody ever expected it to happen. We did not have this education when I was that age. It was not something that was talked about. And the shame and the guilt that I had as a 6-year-old little girl was absolutely horrible. And at 29 years old, I'm still recovering. And I personally have instilled it into my son already that no one is allowed to touch you. But doctors, mom and dad, and grandparents on special occasions if they're watching, you have something wrong. I think it's important that every single child has this opportunity to learn this because although there are some parents that would like to do this on their own and speak to their children on their own about this, there are more families out there that will not say a single thing. And these children will not know a single thing. And it's scary to know that how many of these children that are going to be talked to about this in this curriculum already have this happening and they realize. I know that there's a lot of kids in this school district that may have this happen. So give them the tools and the knowledge and the confidence to know what to do, what to say, and how to act upon it is everything. And to sexualize it and make it look like we're trying to teach these children how to have sex and do things that are inappropriate, that is not what this is about. I will tell you that sexual assault is not a penis, a vagina, hands on the breast, anything that's inappropriate will happen. And for them to see that illustrated in a proper way is going to help them visually learn as well as verbally learn. Happening to me, it's not okay. But yeah, I stand by, all of this. It's amazing. And like I said, as someone who suffered this at a very young age, the age that many people are arguing it's too early to learn about, I beg to differ because my life would have been completely different if I would have had the help that I needed. and knew what to do.
Thank you.
Okay, that book only has 2 pages on bad touching. The rest of it, I feel for you, man.
No, you're perfectly fine. I get the book is disturbing in a reference of the whole thing.
Right.
The pictures that they were going to use, pictures of genitalia are uncomfortable to begin with.
I'm sorry. This is time to address the board. So if you'd like to address the board, that's fine, but anything else to add?
I was gonna say, if this is so controversial, why aren't the adults having the conversation before, just like, hey, your kids are doing this, this is what happened? Thank you.
I think is that everybody? Thank you. We'll move on to routine business. I don't think that there was anything to pull out, was there?
Did not see
I didn't
anything.
see anything.
There was not.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as printed.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, are we on to fiscal year 23 insurance renewal? Hans, you're up.
You're up.
Calling me to come in and talk to you. Great. You want me to state my name?
Go ahead.
Okay, my name's Hans Boehm. I own Boehm Insurance, and I'm working on the property and casualty renewal for July 1, 22 through July 1 of 2023. So first of all, I do want to tell the board this last year has been extremely busy on the insurance side. I know it's not something that I run up to the board and discuss all the time, but Mitch and I and Julie, we have been connected at the hip this last year. I just for your reference, through 9 months since the beginning of last year, I have 144 email correspondence with Mitch. I mean, it's just constant every week, either Mitch or Julie. I'm sure Julie is seeing them as well. So I'd like to thank both of them for being so persistent and helping us in the pursuit of the insurance, because it's been a lot of work. This whole school project's been a lot of work. I want to thank them both publicly because they've both been a huge help. So why don't I'm going to start through this. The insurance renewal, as you probably have all seen, there's so much information in this. If I go line by line on this, we'll be here for a couple of days. So, and I'm not going to try and teach you on all the different aspects of insurance, but what I am going to do is go over the high spots. So when we have a big storm or we have something happen, you can go back to sleep in the middle of the night. Because I know I worry about these things every time we have a big storm of any kind. I always wonder if it hit our school. So, okay, at the top of your first page, it should say property. Under the property blanket, I didn't put a total number in there because when I published this, we didn't have the total number, but it's around $85 million for our property blanket. And that's going to vary a little bit. Now, our property, our inflation rate was 15% is what they're raising property rates. And I'm even hearing from some companies are going as high as 19. So we're probably okay on that. Remember, our blanket rate applies to all locations, all contents, all property we own, other than vehicles. Those are a separate policy. We're going to get to that. The second big item is the builder's risk. A year ago, we did not have the builder's risk policies on here because we hadn't started the schools yet. The valuations, you can see one's 23 million. That's the elementary school out on Hancock. And then the other school is our Futures Building, new Futures Building, which is coming along nicely. That's 4.8 million. Those two property values were not in last year's insurance, but they are now. Those were our bid numbers. And Mitch and I went back and forth. We got different bid numbers. I thought we had it done. Then we changed it. And he and Julie talked about it, and then we changed it again. So hopefully we're on the mark on this, but we can always change it in the mid-year if that isn't adequate. Our deductible on our property is $1,000. We have replacement costs on all our property. Doesn't matter whether it's new property or old property, we're going to pay replacement costs on everything, contents and building. Under the next item, general liability, umbrella and excess umbrella. Those are our limits that we have that we can kind of commit to memory as a board. We have 2 million per occurrence. We have a $4 million umbrella that goes over the top of that. And then we have a $15 million all schools excess umbrella. So we would have up to $21 million to use in the event of a liability claim. The 15 million and the 4 million also go over the top of our automobiles as well. So with the automobiles, we'd have 20 million. We also have a significant list of newer vehicles and buses. We will pay up to replacement value on our new vehicles for up to 10 years. So that's a real advantage to us, because if you have something burn up or get sideswiped or destroyed, we're going to buy a new bus for you, even though it's been depreciating. So the other person I'd like to thank is Mike at the bus barn. He has been very easy to work with, and he's just been a great guy to deal with. And he's real responsive to us in the insurance. So when we need something, he usually gets it for us, and we've had a really good working relationship with him. And I think Mitch has too. The next item I want to talk about is the workers' comp. I guess I got my notes a little bit out of order, but our work comp is with SFM, State Fund of Minnesota. We went to SFM last year because we had a claims problem. EMC, they didn't want to write us anymore, did they, Mitch? Kind of run into a buzzsaw on that. And we got SFM to take us at standard rates plus our experience mod. And we have worked through a number of claims that's really, really helped. I mean, for those of you that maybe don't remember this, last year in September, we received a $2,000 safety award from SFM. And that goes toward paying for programs and getting additional safety issues taken care of. They don't give those out to everybody. I actually asked him if we could get it because I knew we needed it and we really wanted to work toward it. And I can tell you, our administrators have done a wonderful job at safety management. I mean, kudos to them, because we had a tremendous number of claims before, and we're in great shape now. Don't you think, Mitch?
Yeah.
We have just really gotten a hold of it. So, and it's for the safety of all our employees too. It's a good deal for everybody.
I just ask you real quickly, Hans, on that experience mod.
Yeah,
What is it? Has it gone down yet? It started coming
No.
down yet, or is it still
actually,
like a 4 or 5 year rolling number? So
yes, actually, Mitch and I have been talking about this for 2 or 3 weeks. Actually, our experience mod from last year went down to 137. And now next year it has gone up, because what we did was we had, I don't know, 3 or 4 major claims that got settled in 21. And that drove our experience mod down at mid-year. Doesn't happen very often, but they were some big reserved claims and we got them handled. That was it with EMC. Okay, so those got taken care of. That will change it. Now this year we're at 1.53, but I think we're going to be okay with that because we got some additional credits. So actually from last year to this year, if you look at our our ending number, we're actually about $10,000 less. So it is working out. And the safety program that we put in place and working with SFM, they have a great safety engineer who comes up here quite often. And it's just been a really good deal for the school. I've been surprised myself as an agent how fast it's turned around, because it has turned around a lot. It's gone very, very, very well.
That'd been a big problem last year. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, it was. It was a big problem, and I'm glad we're getting a hold of it. One of the things I would like to back up to is our cyber liability. We've been working on that. We had 250,000 last year, and then we raised it up with an additional $1 million excess cyber. So as you can see, the coverages, we have the data compromise, the defense, computer attack, network security defense, electronic media. I'm seeing a lot more activity in cyber, and I've got to tell you, schools be a target for cyber liability. I know we've had that discussion, and it is a problem. So I don't think we're overinsured by any stretch of the imagination. Now, the one thing I do want to tell the board, our cyber limit of liability does not come under the umbrella. It does not come under that. So that's a standalone limit. It's 250,000 and then 1 million. So
Is that enough?
you know something? I gotta tell you, I just saw an article in Wall Street about cyber liability, and it is, they say there's a cyber attack like every 36 seconds in the United States. It's going that fast now. It's just monstrous, and it's all offshore coming to the United States, and there's hardly any way to protect yourself from it. I mean, other than try and keep all your backups in place, keep offsite storage. Try and train your staff not to open emails that look strange. So,
actually, if I just share with you some of the things we've done with respect to cybersecurity, because we've done training this year with multiple, our entire staff, different staff had to do different trainings. And then he can kind of share with you what he does to help alleviate the risk. So.
Two-step verification for all staff. So that means you have to have your phone or something in addition to your password. We've done cybersecurity training for all staff. That's one big thing. And then constantly working on the network security and working on offsite backups right now. So I feel like we're in pretty good shape.
You're reading, that number seems like it's.
I think it seems reasonable for what I'm reading. Yeah.
one of the other coverages I want to bring up quick was the linebacker, which no one would really understand what that is. That is the financial liability for the board, everybody that's sitting on the board. So it's like your directors and officers liability, and it includes employment practices liability. I think that's an important point that you all need to know. The other thing that Mitch has already taken care of, and he and I have worked on this, is our student accident catastrophic liability policy. We renewed that through Gerber Life this year. So that is taken care of as well. That seems to work pretty good in case the school gets into a situation that exceeds their health insurance limit. I've never seen it happen, but I gotta tell you what, it's really a good thing to have happen. You have somebody gets hurt in sports or get hurt in a major injury. This is a good thing to have. So if you'd all turn over to the last page, the premium summary, you can go through, you can see that one of our largest increases is the property. The property liability, or property, not liability, but property limit, I should say. That includes our our property insurance for the new schools, our builder's risk. Then you can see the inland marine, we've added several new items that go off premises. General liability is pretty close, crime is pretty close. Pollution, the same, our cyber is real close. The business auto has changed only because of new units. Our work comp has gone down a little bit. So the primary increase to the school is based on our new schools or new buildings that we're constructing right now. So that's where our increase lies. So does anybody have any questions over any of these items? Be happy to try and help you with it. And I have poured over this stuff over and over and over. And I will tell the board that our insurance is a moving target. There's all sorts of things that influence us. I mean, our work comp is based on payroll, it's based on experience. Our property insurance is based on losses and weather. Hopefully this thing is going to return back to normal, but right now with all the windstorms, it's affecting all the schools. EMC that insures our school insures the vast majority of all schools in the state of Iowa. We're under a safety group and have been for years. And so they pool all our insurance together. What that does is it gives us stronger coverages. And it also gives us the opportunity to get a dividend if the whole program is profitable. And we have gotten some good dividends in the past. And I hope we get them again. We just got to get by this bad stretch we're in right now. And I think everybody's aware of that. Everybody's had so many claims in the last couple of years. We're ready to be done with it. So, okay, that completes my report. If anybody's got any other questions, you can certainly give me a call at any time or ask Mitch and he can get a hold of me. So, okay, thank you for having me.
Thanks, Hans.
Thank you, Hans.
Is this an action item?
Yes.
Yes.
There's no other questions. I'd entertain a motion.
I'd move to approve the fiscal 23 insurance renewal as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, number 3, summer school programming.
Well, let's get the graduation list first.
Oh, sorry, graduation. Already checked that one off.
So you should have the list in front of you. If you have questions, I'm sure Mr. Johnson would be able to answer any of the questions that you may have, but we recommend approval of the graduation class list.
I'll move to approve.
Sorry.
Motion from Pat. We have a second.
Sure, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
I would just ask how many's on that list without counting. I mean, I could have counted it myself, but
145, and then there are some on the second page.
Keep-
145 on the first list.
thank you.
Other questions? All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Graduation class list approved. Okay, now number 3, summer school programming.
We'll go ahead and let Jill speak to the summer school programming. And Drake, okay? Okay.
Hello again, everyone. So summer school is going to operate pretty similar to how it's been in the past few years, or at least since I've been here. It's almost identical, I think, to last year for the most part. The first program of 3 would be our normal summer school. So students who did not earn credit or pass a course have the opportunity to earn credit to stay on pace with their peers and graduate on time. Down below in this box right here kind of shows some of our data we've had. I pulled the first semester and we had about 49 students with an F after semester 1. We usually see that number hopefully go down because our seniors kind of get everything figured out to cross the finish line. So we can anticipate probably like 32 to 40 students again, roughly around that number. So we have a summer school director. She's been doing it for a while. It used to be 6 weeks, and we reduced it last year down to 5 weeks. And you can see our numbers. The students actually earn more credits than they did previously. So we think that's still suffice if we have it 5 weeks. We kind of tell students that it's going to wrap up July 4th, and then we kind of catch our stragglers there at the end, get everything wrapped up by that first week of July.
You give them 7 weeks, those stragglers are gonna take 8. If you give
Yep.
them 5 weeks, you
Yep.
gotta give them a deadline.
Yep, so summer school operates Monday through Friday for 3.5 hours. So that one is our longest compared to our other 2 programs. They go 5 days a week. The next program is 8.5. Again, that's a program we've operated for a few years. It went away during our COVID time, and we'd like to bring it back. So that's a great transition opportunity for our students coming from 8th grade to the high school. They do earn 1 high school credit or half credit. So it starts them off on the right foot, and then allows them to have a contact person here at the high school with Mr. Smith, someone to go to, build that relationship with, which is really great. And they operate Monday through Thursday for 4 hours a day. And then our last one is Futures Alternative Program, and that's just Kim having some seniors, maybe they need to wrap up some coursework, or have some students that came in the middle of the year and they're a little behind. We have to continue into that June month to stay on pace. So those are kind of our 3 programs, and then the cost for those 3 programs for this summer. I think these programs are really essential for our students. It helps keep them on pace with their peers. And if they weren't on pace with their peers and had to retake a course, that increases our class sizes. And I think we have like 190 coming in, so that's something we gotta be mindful of as well. So I'm a big fan of these programs and the people that operate them. So,
Mr. Bailey, can you speak to the pilot in the high
Thank
school
you.
summer
Yep.
school also?
Yeah, so that's that's the 3rd bullet point right there. So Ms. Greenfield, she was an English teacher, I believe, for 18 years. So she'll support students who are recovering in their English credit. And then we also are piloting a advanced option, which he's been a big advocate for and done a lot of legwork. So we appreciate that. So some students that are interested in Bell and Blank Apex can take a social studies, and then I think a creative writing potentially. That would free up
Have some suggestions with your approval to kind of pilot doing an advancement, then
yeah,
we
maybe
can narrow down which courses are offered. So it's not a broad,
No.
take any course you want, but we have a couple of them that we think are sticklers in kids' schedules at times, are ones that kids are looking to advance so they can get to more advanced coursework in those areas and those content areas. And so she has some great suggestions, and we thought it might be a good year to pilot some of those, see what that looks like before we broadly open that up for other kids. Or all of them. More broadly open that up for advancement.
And the advancement kind of operates in 2 systems. So there's Bell and Blank and Apex, which is a select group that we're kind of piloting with some courses that Christina researched. And then last year, our math department did a lot of work and then provided a test out opportunity in Algebra 1 and geometry this year. So that's a great opportunity for students to demonstrate what they know and allow them to excel if they're strong in that content area.
Of providing a teacher that they can check in with once a week throughout the summer if they're doing those advancement courses, we think might make that more successful. In the past, we've tried some things before where the kids kind of just did it on their own, and they really do need somebody still kind of checking in on them while they're doing those things. So like they do.
Christina's hours, if you look, are a little different. So the students, we do have students who apply through the application process and are interested in that Apex. It's a 12-week course. So hers are 2 hours, like once a week she'd meet of those students during the course of the summer. So it's not wrapped up by July 1st like our other 2 programs. And then at the very bottom, before we kind of move on to ESY, is there any questions about those programs that we can help answer?
I have a question just because curious for myself here on the summer school program wise. Is it kind of more self-driven and they have somebody there to help steer them in the right directions, or is it coursework, I guess, or we'll explain that? I'm just for my knowledge more than anything.
So it depends. So right now at our high school, if we had 5 standards in a course and kids were proficient at 4 of them and weren't quite proficient at 5, they're going to get an incomplete, and their summer school might be a lot less than a student who didn't do much or didn't understand any of the standards. They're going to do a course retake through Edmonton. That is a little more self-paced, but Ms. Dental or a summer school person is there to guide them and support them. And the English is a little more heavier, so that's why we also have that. Ms. Greenfield will do some English support if needed. So it depends on what type of recovery that student's in, if it's an incomplete or the full course retake.
Thanks.
And if you scroll.
Yep.
The other summer program that we will run is less of a looking for approval, but more of an update, extended school year for special education students that qualify or that the IEP team determines meets the criteria for needing extended school year supports. Just an update, we will run that program this year, mostly in a timeframe July 18th through August 11th. It really varies by kid and what the kid needs, but most fall of our services will fall within that. So every once in a while we have kids that they need more sustained support throughout the summer, so they're doing a smaller check-in. But I think this year, most of the kids on the list, most if not all, will fall within that timeframe. That our teachers have felt like allows them to kind of kickstart their learning before the school year starts. They get 4 weeks to kind of get a short burst of support for their goal areas. And then that helps them when they transition back to learning to sustain their learning. And we'll hold that at Page, Franklin, and Boone Middle School. We are not planning to use the high school as a location. We don't have very many students needing services and that are high school age. And with the gym and the HVAC project going on, it could be kind of uncomfortable. We're not sure yet. And so with a small amount of, I keep asking for a time frame on that project, and it's very sketchy. So for that reason, since it doesn't affect very many of our high school students, they could be served at the middle school. And so we'll use those 3 locations to serve kids. They typically come for approximately 2 hours, but it really depends on their needed goal areas. So some students, it might be a shorter time frame. There's 38 students currently on our list. 4 of those are speech only services. So the AEA serves them, but often uses our schools to do that. Looking at kids and needs and principals and teachers are still helping to kind of group those kids together by needs. It looks like we would need 8 teachers to serve those kids' needs. And if possible, we have them served by their incoming grade level teacher so they can kind of start that relationship with their new teacher if they're going to have a different teacher and get settled back in for the school year. Sometimes that isn't possible when their teacher isn't available or if we've had a change in staffing. Most of the teachers serve 4 days and they come in for 2 hours a day. Plus we pay them for some additional planning time to do the goal and the data work. But teaching hours really are adjusted to meet student learning needs and the goal needs. So sometimes some teachers might be supporting a larger group of students and they have a few extra hours because they have half the kids come and then another half. It really varies, but most teachers serve 4 days a week, 2 hours per week. And then we look at the IEPs to determine how many associates are needed to make sure we meet their needs. Sometimes they need access to an adult, but if there's not very many students in the room, that teacher might serve that need that would be an associate or one-on-one at another time. So at this point, I don't know for sure how many associates are needed as we kind of nail down what are the groups of kids, who's coming, who needs transportation, and what does that look like? It's a pretty flexible program, so it's hard to tell you that it runs 8 to 10 on certain days. It runs 8-ish to noonish for kids someplace in between there with transportation routes in now. But we do have quite a few students on that list. It seems a little bit higher than maybe some previous years, but I do think we have students in our mix that are still just really trying to determine what services do we need to meet their needs and may have some COVID related gaps in their learning, especially our young learners. We continue to see that.
Any questions?
Do we need approval for the high school summer school?
So what are, you're asking for approval of the estimated costs of $14,580?
Correct. I move to approve.
Thank you.
High school program.
We have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and second. Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, number 4, IJAG Memorandum of Understanding.
Yes, so every year we do look at the IJAG Memorandum of Understanding and approve it. I noticed this year they moved from 35 to 40 students. They do seem to keep upping the number of students that they'd like to see in the program for IJAG. But that's the main difference. We do, if there is a need for a guest teacher, the school district does pay for up to 10 days and then IJAG takes over any guest teacher needs. But we would recommend approval because they're an integral piece to our work-based learning program. And so we would recommend approval of the IJAG Memorandum of Understanding.
This is just the high school program, right?
Correct. We do
Talked
not
about-
have,
We talked about expansion on one. point.
correct, and we aren't ready to expand yet. Right now, it's basically 10th through 12th. When we decide to expand, I think we probably go 9, 12, and then in the middle. But we met with IJ earlier this year to discuss that very thing, and there are just some components that we feel strongly that we want to have in place when we do expand, so that we can be ensured that it's truly successful in an expansion and that we don't have some of the growing pains we had initially. So putting some of those other components in place before we actually expand it.
Still on the radar though.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still on the radar.
I just want to share with high
Absolutely.
school and on our IJEC staff.
Oh, yeah, this is good. Yeah.
That one of the IJEC VPs reached out and shared that when they look at IJEC collects data, or our specialists collect data on the kids and their successes for a year after graduation. And so they kind of analyze that success data. And our Boone graduates score 20% higher in those success rates, all the different data points than the typical IJEC program. So I think that's kudos to our school and our specialists, and the difference of that program is making it help support our kids. So a little bit of data to say it works and it's working really well.
Right. But I think we credit it to the fact that it's integrated into Edge and how we do that. So that's what we get the most questions on from other schools is what's that look like? How do we try to emulate that when they talk to us about IJ? That's the most frequent question.
I'm always very impressed when I interact with that program. I do it through Edge quite a bit. Impressive students, and the team that's there is great too. So I hope that we can expand it. Okay.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Otherwise, this one is set for,
We need to,
I will move to approve the MOU with IJEC.
we have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, preschool handbook.
so you have the proposed preschool handbook that we are recommending for approval. I don't know if Autumn, if you want to highlight anything at all.
The only changes in the fiscal handbook was they had updated a protocol for sanitation and cleaning. We did our next audit. They found that it was the most recently changed. And we had to put in writing that parochial schools did not require the parents to pay for snacks. It's been a new change. Those are the only. I would prefer. That's not it for components.
Questions from board members? Otherwise, I think we need approval on this also.
Mhm.
Oh.
Submitted this way, that's about it, because we had a timeline, but.
Right.
we wanted to make
Yes.
changes.
Mhm. We still want
I
to,
move to approve the preschool handbook.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and second. Any questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. SEL Teacher Leadership Committee.
yes, I'm going to go ahead and let Dr. James come on up and share a little bit more about SEL committee.
You've heard us talk quite a bit about SEL, social emotional learning, and our goals and our efforts in that area. And really back to some of the conversation earlier this evening around goal work and thinking about universal core instruction for all kids. That's really been our focus this year, is on defining and implementing core instruction in SEL for all of our students, and kind of where are we at in that process? What's that look like? And we want all those classrooms to, or all kids to have access to the same supports and learning in our academic areas and in social emotional learning too. And that's a big step for us. And so throughout the school year, as the admin team and teacher leadership really looked at what do we have in place right now for core SEL and what would we need to do to really implement that with fidelity across the district for all of our kids. We kind of came up with an action plan that's in a graphic that's a little small there, And that was shared with our teachers this winter to kind of help them see, here's where we are and what our purpose is in some all district learning. In the winter, we engaged all of our teachers in kind of unpacking and taking a look at what the what, right? The standards and competencies related to SEL to look at what do we have in place and what do we even need to be putting in place for the SEL. And I think that's kind of helped some of us to realize there's a lot there that maybe we're hoping happens by happenstance, and we maybe need some more core direct instruction in some of those competencies. So with that in mind, we would like to form a district leadership team because we feel like that's something that when you involve teachers and have that teacher voice in helping to select curriculum and think about implementation and pilot and trial things, they really can be a strong voice in helping to provide the boots on the ground input of what's going to work or what will work best in our context. And so we'd like to this summer create a leadership team that includes teachers that would really investigate all of what core SEL needs to look like and be those lead learners for us in the district. And then those would be our teachers that would help to lead and pilot ideas and assist with professional learning in their school buildings so that in 22-23, all of our teachers can continue to learn. They've dug in and looked at the what that we need to teach in competencies, but a next step then would be thinking about learning instructional practices to implement and teach those things. And our SEL leadership team would take a lead in helping to do that learning at the building level and lead that learning, as well as pilot some instructional materials for us if we feel there are some certain areas that maybe we're not able to address right now in our core that we need new instructional materials for. We would use those teachers on that pilot team to try all those materials out, be kind of a model classroom to let people come in and observe them, or video lessons so we can kind of decide what's a right fit for us and then be able to implement any new curriculum materials in 23-24. So we know that it's not a quick process and it's a heavy lift to get there. And we really want to leverage teachers and their expertise in that work. So we would like to create that district SEL team with 16 teachers, 4 from each kind of building level that would help to lead that work. We know that one counselor can't do it all. We know that one teacher in a grade level could have a lot of impact in helping the others kind of determine what fits well in that grade level. So we'd like them to kind of be responsible for leading that work at the building level. And we feel like it's important that we compensate and help recognize the extra that teachers might be putting in to do this. It's not something that currently we have a role in our teacher leadership grant for. We have PLC leaders and mentor model teachers. Long-term, this could be something that is a need that we would want to revamp that and revise that teacher leadership team. But at this point, we're not quite sure yet what that need is, if this is an ongoing need or just a short-term need in implementing curriculum. So we'd like to use professional development funds and curriculum development funds to be able to pay a stipend for these teachers that apply to help serve and lead that work.
And I'm going to piggyback a little bit on the fact that just so that anyone who might be listening and doesn't know what SEL is, that social emotional learning, there are 5 categories. And actually the 5 categories that make up social emotional learning actually are part of what our community said they wanted in Portrait of a Graduate. So when we do present the community's plan for us as a district, you'll see components of this, but the 5 areas are social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision-making, self-management, and self-awareness. And so those are the categories that fall under social emotional learning, just so that there's a lot of clarity around what we're talking about. When we talk about social emotional learning, it really is about, we heard a lot about personal responsibility through the Portrait of a Graduate. This is part of that. So we see a lot of the work that we'd be doing for Portrait of a Graduate really intertwined in with this work with our social emotional learning, because what we heard from our community members was very similar to what we have here with social emotional learning. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that, because we haven't presented Portrait of a Graduate yet. So I thought I'd let you know that.
So we ask for your approval to create stipend positions paid for from our professional development, curriculum development funds, so that we can kind of sustain and help kickstart this curriculum and implementation work in the next 2 years.
Just like, oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
Well, do you have 16 interested people, do you think?
Well, I have 17 at this point. Because I did just look at my Google form that's out there to gauge interest in application. So our teachers would apply to their building principals, who could then select from those that are interested and hopefully find a diverse representation of some teachers that are core teachers, some special education teachers, counselors or specialists so that we kind of get a nice lens, because we know that all of our teachers need to be implementing parts of this. And so it can't just fall to one particular group. So our principals will help kind of review those applicants and kind of determine what can best represent their building and help lead this work.
My only question is, hate to be down here, but budget about $20,000 here. I think Mitch and Julie, we're on a tight budget this year, coming year. Do we have that $20,000 safely?
We actually,
That's why we'd use the PD
The
fund.
categorical.
it's
Yeah.
a categorical fund.
We receive about 140 grand a year that we use for different professional development programs. And last year we had a large carryover due to COVID because nobody sent anybody
Anywhere.
anywhere. So we have the funds for that.
And often we set those funds aside when we're doing a new curriculum adoption. If science is under review and the science team needs some additional hours in the summer to really dig into the new curriculum materials, then we'll provide them with some support and learning and extra paid time for that. There's not really a SEL team to lead this work or to dig into the new curriculums. That's what we're looking to use these for, is to create a leadership team that would then be leading that work.
Okay, I'm fine.
And it looks like they'll be used, working throughout the next school year. So,
Throughout the next school year, and we really foresee that it could be a 2-year need.
yeah.
Have we decided on the curriculum or program, or is the point of this to?
This team would help lead that work.
Not decided.
So is this like a 1.5-ish year, we could say, commitment for these 16 individuals? And then we would kind of do this again, 1.5 years later again of new individuals?
I foresee it as a 2-year, and then it's a matter of, is this an ongoing need or was this a short-term curricular need that we needed this team to implement? And it's kind of hard to say where we'll be in 2 years, but right now, typically we would say we're reviewing math. And so we've got our math department members and we need some representatives from each K-4 team. We don't have a SEL department. It's kind of everybody needs to own it. So we're looking to kickstart that work with this team, and they could serve for 2 years. And that would be an annual stipend. We look for them to commit for a year, but we really foresee that this could turn into a 2-year commitment. If you pilot, then you probably are also providing some support as the next people are implementing. So we'd be coming back and saying, is this something you would like to serve again, and continue to support your colleagues in implementing?
We'd follow the same curriculum adoption processes that we do for any other subject. And so typically, I believe, in Boone, after like a committee kind of thinks they know what they're thinking, then they can present that to SIAC. I know as one of the groups they've presented before, but our 600 series outlines that from board policy. So as we continue to review that, you can pay close attention to 603.
Eddie would bring something.
603, somewhere in there, with regard to the curriculum adoption, because it is something that's, it's a heavy lift. So yeah.
I don't have a team to go to for it.
Does it become something like PLC district-wide where it's given the same sort of, we put a lot of effort into getting PLC and then implementing it well, and then maintaining it as the same vision for this?
And we have to see it as we have academic standards and we have these standards that are also every kid needs to get them. How do we help provide that skill set to our kids? What's that lift look like? We're not used to doing it yet. And so it's hard for me to say beyond 2 years, but definitely we can look at what things are needed in core. You need time dedicated to teaching, direct instruction, as well as, you can weave in relationship building skills and those things with kids. You need good instructional practices, and you need curricular resources. And right now we don't necessarily have specific or aligned curricular resources for teaching these skills. And we, in some cases, haven't necessarily carved out what that time needs to look like. At secondary, what does it look like to make sure that you're helping kids be self-aware? Helping to determine how do we get all those building blocks for good core instruction in place for this type of learning is just a larger lift because it's a little bit different lens for us to use, but that's put in place.
I think this is an action item, right? Are there any other questions?
Permission to offer contracts, additional stipend contracts.
I look forward to getting updates on how the progress goes. So. Any other questions or motions?
I move to implement the SEL teacher leadership. If you want to call it universal SEL program.
SEL leadership team.
Leadership committee.
Yeah. I need a curriculum committee and I don't have one for this one.
Leadership, SEL leadership team proposal.
We have a motion. We have a second. Further questions or comments? All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thanks, Jill. Number 7, foreign exchange student.
So in your packet, you have a student application for foreign exchange student to attend Boone schools next year. The individual will be from the Netherlands. So you should have their information in Simply. So you can kind of see their country of origin and whether they've traveled outside their own home country. They definitely have. But looking to do some foreign exchange opportunities in Boone. So we would recommend approval.
2 concerns I
Does she
have.
have a family?
Yes.
Number 1 is, do we have a family and do they live in the school district? Because we've had that happen before.
I believe John can speak to that, but because they had been speaking with Mr. Johnson about that, but that is one of the
Usually that's
reasons they approached us.
that,
Okay, so that was one of the reasons they approached us because the family that was interested in hosting lived in our district. So that's my understanding, is that that's why they approached us.
Yes, that's my understanding as well, that this family lives in the Boone Community School District and they're hosting this foreign exchange student. So they're seeking enrollment here. Our process is to have the board approve it. So that's why we're here.
okay. That was the first one. Second, some concern was that there was relatives that lived in the USA. So
Did what? I'm sorry.
there have been problems in the past with exchange students in general, if they have other family members that live in the country and then we kind of lose track of them.
Okay.
With exchange students, you have to be able to, they're on a visa.
Mhm.
Or it should preface this by saying that I used to be in charge for the Rotary one, so I had to know, I'd take a test on the rules
Okay.
for this. And you have to be able to get in contact with your exchange student within, I think it's 12 hours time to call the State Department at any time if they randomly audit you. And in those packs and those tests, they talked about how some exchange students come over and then would all of a sudden disappear over to relatives. You couldn't find them, couldn't get them back. So that was the only kind of caution I would say to work with the company, with this company to make sure that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I can follow up with them pending the board's decision, but I don't believe that's the case. That there would be.
I just had to take the test and that was one of the red flags they told us to look for.
Well, and if you would feel also more comfortable, you could always approve it pending the host family living in the district. If that's not, because I don't see it listed here either, but that's my understanding is they do. That'd be a way to ensure that the approval was pending resident host family.
Yeah, just for the board's information, this agency reached out at the beginning of April, said they had a family in Boone who was looking to host a family and wanted to make sure that they could be approved to go to Boone Community School District. Superintendent Trepa, and then we had them submit the paperwork and then here, so I can follow up with that company or agency if you'd like.
Well, those are just the 2 things that stuck out over the years when we've done the exchange. We've done several exchanges. I'm happy to see us bring back exchange students after.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a great learning experience. I've hosted exchange students. I've helped Rotary host exchange students. So
I think it's a great
I'm
opportunity.
happy. I just want to make sure we do it without opening the school up to liability.
Totally.
Otherwise, I would approve this young lady. I think it'd be fine.
Is that a motion?
I'll move to approve pending verification of host parents' address.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Did you have anything? You said something earlier and I think you might have.
It was the same question. I just wanted to verify that she had a family already taken care of.
Okay. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to number 8, Franklin display screen bids.
We've got a couple options here. Hard to read up there. So we asked for bids for interactive flat panel displays for Franklin to replace the projectors that are aging out there. So these would be wall mounted televisions that the teachers and students could interact with, like a giant tablet, basically.
What they call smart boards or
Like a smart board, yep. But instead of a projector, like the old style where they projected onto an interactive thing, it's a giant tablet,
okay.
goes on the wall. So you could just think about it like your touchscreen TV, or your TV at home, but with touchscreen built in. So there's a couple of different options out there. I will say Clever Touch is probably the most well recognized in local school districts. That's what's most commonly used. But there's a lot of other options. The New Line is not really commonly used in this area. They are the lowest cost for sure. Promethean, they also used to make interactive projectors. So they're a fairly well-known name around education. Samsung is a good, well-known brand for displays in general. We have a lot of Samsung TVs around the district. Optima is not one that I'm familiar with, but DAC Tech, which is a Midwest tech company that sells a lot to education, is their preferred vendor. Then we've got the Clever Touch, finally the Promethean option. They're all very similar in the sense that they do a lot of the same things. They have whiteboards, the ability to annotate over the top of other documents and videos, things like that. Almost all of them run Android of some variety. One of the requirements I had when I asked for bids was that it not be the old unsupported version of Android. A lot of them bid that anyways. So you'll see in my notes there, that's kind of why I've preferred not to go with one of those options. Samsung is a little bit different. They don't run Android. They have their own operating system. So even though they didn't meet all the minimum specifications, mostly with the amount of memory, it's a little bit different for them because they're not running Android. So that minimum memory requirement isn't really the same for them because they're not running the same operating system. So Samsung has one that's a 75-inch. All our other options are 65s in this price range. So it was nice to be able to get a larger display size that's still in that same ballpark. I was able to see the Samsung device when I was at the iTech conference a month or so ago. It is very nice and easy to use. I'll say it's probably the simplest one that I've seen. There's not a lot of bells and whistles built in, but it's very easy to just do whiteboard functions and the things that a teacher wants to be able to just walk up and do. And then beyond that, they've got their Chrome device attached and they can do all their regular display things like they would from a projector or anywhere else. So my recommendation would be the Samsung 75-inch device. And that's a combination of device functionality. It's got the best warranty out of the bunch. It's a 5-year versus a 1 or 3 year. And it's also available to ship immediately, whereas some of the other devices wouldn't come until late in the summer. And I think we'd have a hard time actually getting them installed before school started back up.
I would ask, technology is one of those things that's ever changing and always, I just know at work wise, we had one of these and it seems like as soon as we got it up and working, it was already obsolete and out of date. Walk me through that, I guess, a little bit. I mean, is it something that we're predominantly just using it for the whiteboard feature so it would be available for many years to come? I guess I'm just asking, again, technology goes out of style so fast.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can definitely assume at least a 5-year life. I think probably more like 7 or 8 is what most people are estimating for the flat panels. They've got a 50,000 hour lifespan on the LEDs. So that kind of varies depending on how much they're turned on, obviously. But that should easily get us into the 7-8 year range based on their usage. As far as software updates and things go, that is one reason I asked for the newer version of Android. And Samsung's benefit is they have their own OS that they're constantly updating. So I think we're in pretty good shape from that standpoint. But, we've got 15-year-old projectors around the district. They're very dim and hard to see. So I don't know that I would suggest we should keep a display technology for 15 years, but I would say we should not expect these to last 15 years. We should expect to be more on a 5-year refresh cycle with display technology for classrooms.
And that's the longest warranty here.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because 2 comments I have. Number one is because these are not all apples and apples. We don't have to worry about accepting the lowest bid because there's no real comparison.
Apples to apples.
Because 5-year warranty, screen size and that type of thing. Then number 2, Mitch, this does not come out general budget, does it?
No, this comes out of the technology budget within the PEPAL fund. And it has plenty enough balance plus that. So we're budgeting 70 grand. We rough estimated and we're definitely under 70 grand. So
I would ask one more question. You mentioned that Clever Touch was like the most popular, this top of the line. I don't remember what you said exactly. Obviously, they didn't listen to your Android update. They went with 9. I guess what was the reason? Is that the only reason you didn't like the Clever Touch?
No, they're actually, that 9 is the newer version.
Oh, okay.
So 8 is the older one that a lot of them have. So the Clever Touch is good. It's just more expensive. And it does, I think, it doesn't have as good a warranty as the Samsung. And I do worry still about longevity. Android 9 is only going to be good for about another year. 8 just stopped getting support last year. Now, Clever Touch will tell you they're going to keep releasing software updates, but that just means they're going to keep releasing like feature updates. It's going to stop getting security updates because the underlying Android isn't going to get them anymore. But it's very nice. The benefit with the Clever Touch would be that if we're getting teachers from other districts, that's probably the one they're most likely to be familiar with, because that's probably what they're using at another district in the area. So there is some benefit there to consider. But I felt like the Samsung was easy enough that anyone with 0 training could walk up and pick up the pen and start writing on it and figure out what they're doing.
Even me.
Even you. If you could use a whiteboard, you could use the Samsung one. It's that simple.
Other questions? These are going to Franklin?
Yep, Franklin. Basically, we would keep doing this every year for the next several years at least. And then probably by the time we're done, we'd be back at the beginning. But next year would be the new early childhood center. And then we'd go to the middle school after that, and then the high school last. And while we're doing that, we'll be shuffling around the projectors from the other buildings that are still serviceable so that we can take like the newest ones from Franklin, redeploy those to the middle school, and take the newest ones from the middle school, redeploy those to the high school to kind of limp us along until we can get all the buildings done.
I move that we accept the bid for the Samsung screens, whiteboards.
There's a motion on the floor. Did you motion to approve the recommendation, Pat?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions from the folks?
So, I mean, you guys did amazing at working with my technology team for the new build, and he went into the visit. They are in love with the Clever Touches, but I think that they will learn the Samsung or anything else, and especially because the software or the tools and the downloadable things are transferred to the device.
Correct.
You guys had a great focus on this, and it's really fair to my teachers. Really.
And we're saving $13,000.
Yes.
Okay. Nothing from Franklin? Okay, any other questions or comments? We have a motion second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Levi. 9, middle school flooring bids. Spending some money tonight, huh?
Yes. Sorry.
Hello. So kind of speaks for itself, but basically what we're looking at doing is over the next 3 to 4 years, replacing one wing of carpet a year for the next 3 to 4 years, just that cost. It is original, it's getting worn and torn. We're just trying to be proactive with it before it gets worse. On top of all the other new buildings going up, projects happening, we just need to make sure we're taking care of our existing buildings as well. So I got several bids for carpet replacement that includes tear out, new cove base, molding as needed. And lowest bidder was just under 65,000. And Mitch,
Last month, we've been working with Brian, and I think we updated Jeremy on it, kind of a plan for our save fund in the next probably 5-6 years out. And we budgeted for 100 grand over the next 3 years to start replacing that flooring within that building because it's showing some age. So we have a budgeted.
This is part of our budget, yeah.
100,000 a year.
Yeah, so this came in lower than we thought.
Yeah.
quite a bit lower.
Mhm.
Good news.
It was a pleasant surprise.
Now, there's some of the flooring is newer. Part of that building was built, what was it, 4 years afterwards, Scott, or?
We've been in there the last year. We carpeted the entry or not the entry, the office, and it would be that carpeting.
It's got special stain resistant,
Yeah.
whatever they call it, but it's supposed to, yeah. So it's really good carpet.
I'll move to accept the Leland Brothers floor company's bid of $64,714 for middle school carpet. One.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any questions or comments?
Down to talk with them.
With who?
Mr. Green, have you been down to Perry to talk with them or anything?
They all came to the schools to get measurements. Yep. So it was face to face with all of them. Yep.
Other questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. SAI mentoring program agreement.
So oftentimes we'll bring an SAI mentoring program agreement when we have a new administrator coming on board. Principals are required to do this as part of the mentoring program in the state of Iowa. Assistant principals are not required to, but it's still considered best practice. So I am recommending that we have an agreement with school administrators of Iowa to provide a mentor for our new assistant principal at the middle school for next year. That would provide someone who's not in the district, but in a similar role in a similar size district to serve as a mentor. And they have professional development that they are able to participate in being part of that mentoring program. So I recommend approval of that. We also have an internal mentor in Drake set up, but sometimes it's good to have both internal and external. So we're recommending, or I'm recommending the SAI mentoring program agreement.
Questions? I think it sounds like a good program. It's always gone well.
Make a motion to participate in the SAI Administrators Mentoring and Induction Program.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Pat. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 11, shared mental health therapist position.
So when we have been working with YSS in the past, there are some paid positions, and then there are positions that historically were considered free to the school district from YSS. And we lost a therapist this year that typically we received from YSS. So our younger children in Page and Lincoln lost that opportunity, and we see an increased need, not a decreased need. And so I I had approached Pam Dodge, Superintendent in Ogden, about a possible sharing agreement to share a mental health provider between our two districts, 60-40. So they'd be in our district for 3 days a week and in the Ogden district 2 days a week, so that we could ensure that our students had that support that they were accustomed to having. So that's how this came about, was because we lost the support that was being provided for free. The other thing to note about this is because it's shared personnel, we do receive sharing dollars for this particular position worth 2 students. And I always do it by students. And so the sharing dollars that each district receives is the equivalent of 2 students. So the cost of this would be offset by that income coming in, but it's always a year later. Just remember, it's always a year after you've started. And then we have also been putting together the job description and requirements so that we can post if this is something that each of our boards agree to. But we feel that it's necessary to support our students. And this is something that we had approached. Actually, I had talked to Mitch about, basically when we lost the person. How are we going to get this back, and how can we afford this? Because we need this support. So we can utilize some categorical dollars to help with this position. We can use ESSER funds. So it would not need to come out of our general fund. So that's how we can afford this position.
Be a position held by the school, not YSS, or
It would be held by us.
so an IPERS position.
It would be. It'd be a very attractive position to
Right.
someone. Mhm.
Yeah, it's a mental health therapist. Are we looking at social worker background, psychology
Full
background?
therapist, LISW, I believe. It's still social work.
We're still working on the job description.
Yeah.
I know we're reaching out to other schools who
Mhm.
There's a hired them for ways you can get your
Mhm.
training.
The most common certification that we have found is the LISW certification from the therapy perspective. But then there's also something that they'll have to do through the Department of Education that should not be a problem if they have licensure for therapy. So that was the other reason that we wanted to have it through our district. It also would alleviate any kind of insurance that parents would need to have, because they would simply receive it as part of the services that we have in our district. How that works with some of our other mental health programs is we house the therapist, but it still goes through another entity. And so parents use their insurance to pay for that service. This would simply be something that would be provided by the district and would not require that.
So, I mean, you wouldn't get Medicaid reimbursement, or could we?
We would, if it's
If
eligible.
it's
we would.
eligible, if it's eligible.
Yeah.
But that's different than,
Yeah.
the insurance piece.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Waiting years.
Oh,
years.
yeah.
And they're driving to West City and.
There's great need. A lot of it is, a lot of them
Find somebody.
are a Title 19, have main source payment. If you're looking for counseling, mental health therapy, you got Title 19, you're basically extremely limited. You got child serve down in Johnston. Is your main source. YSS gets a little bit, but most of the other ones require private insurance. So this would be a service to our kids.
It absolutely would be.
I have a follow-up, I guess. Is it a 70-30 or 60-40? I think
60.
Greg had a typo. I just wanted to clarify that.
40.
60-40. And then I guess based upon hearing the need for that in our district, is 60% of that individual's time enough for Boone District? I'm just asking the question.
What I would share with you is that I will continue to find ways to increase our mental health services to our students. So this is a start. That's what I would say.
Because the population is not split 60-40 if you look at number of kids served.
Right.
And we're talking the younger kids, right?
But just so that you know, what we did receive previously was 2 days a week. So we would be getting an extra day than what we had before. So that's kind of why we're starting there. Right. So this is still an increase over what we did receive. even though I'm going to tell you that we're going to continue to find ways to increase. It may be similar to our work-based learning collaboration with Ogden, where eventually we take on the entire contract and they do similar action, but this is a starting point for both of us to receive services that both Ogden and Boone have recognized as a need and have lost services. So
what grades exactly?
A1.
TK1.
I guess I did that backwards. Preschoolers
Mhm.
also are looking for services as well, so.
Brad, do you have any support like that at Franklin?
We have 1 day a week of YSS.
Yeah.
One, I was just gonna share one benefit that I would see in this position over, and I appreciate our YSS person, but this person could be more collaborative with our teachers. Our YSS therapist, she does a great job with our kids, but then she's only there that 1 day a week and her schedule is really full. So she doesn't have a lot of time to touch base with teachers, talk to them about strategies that they can implement in the classroom, those kinds of things, if that makes sense. So it would, I feel like this would be a lot more collaborative, having that time, like staff members working with the teachers, follow up and see how things are going.
I mean, it's possible some children would maybe get to see the person more than once a week, but in the private domain, once a week is pretty much how it is. So
if you're lucky,
if you can.
Yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah.
school-based programming where there's so many insurance and they're going to school, even once a week is really hard to find. So
Oh, yeah.
I think they have that opportunity to be on site and see their day-to-day, you know, the couple of people they're wrestling with them and there is and say, hey, I know this is hard, check in with them in the morning, or root them in the hallway. I think that connectivity is will be really
I do too.
intensive level of support that someone's treated versus, you know.
Well, everybody keep your fingers and toes crossed.
The other thing too is if you have a person there, it's a week and they happen to have this day. Right now, if my person is out sick,
Here.
then it's 2 weeks with those services, and those are our most intensive kids that really need those services. You know, or you know, sick, and then we have our calendar falls and we have that day off,
or we have a
something,
snow
and
day
then
or.
services, just because it's just that 1 day a week. So ours is Thursday a week. We have a Thursday off.
5 days.
I know.
5 days, we need 5 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
That'll be,
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm glad that they'll be part of the Boone Community School District as opposed to a contract.
Correct.
I think that's important too.
That also really had some part of our school and our community,
Yeah.
but that's hard to be two separate.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we for approval.
I'll move to approve the sharing agreement with Ogden for a mental health therapist at a 60-40 ratio to start.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And moved and seconded. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Number 12, fiscal year 23 administration managers and central office salaries.
So this is our group that we're approving. So this is simply approval for next year's salaries for administration, our directors or managers, however you want to refer to them, and our central office staff.
Questions, comments from board? Otherwise, we'd entertain a motion for approval.
I'd move to approve the next year's salaries for the administration manager and central office for an increase of 5.55%.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Building project updates.
So, oh, do you want to do the video now? First, I'm going to talk about the open space video service. I had shared with this with you previously, but we had been looking to find a service that would allow us to have video and pictures prior to build, during and after, so that as construction, if you recall, 16 years ago, we built the middle school. We would love to be able to tear away and say, okay, what's behind that wall exactly? And that's what this would do. It takes certain points in time and different locations and will allow us to see the build as it goes through. It allows us to put notes at different points, allows us to put warranties in, just a wide variety of results. We had looked at another vendor, DLR Group had shared the open space video service. And so I just wanted you, and it came in at 19,900. So that is something that I signed off on because that's under our 25,000. But I wanted you to know that we did go with open space video instead of the previous vendor that we had originally looked at, simply because it was more robust in nature, provides also a lot better. It synchronizes better because the same people that are constructing are also the same people that are going to be documenting these things. So it wouldn't require timing like the other one, and it provides more frequent updates from the other service that we had. So
It's like half the price.
it is significantly cheaper and more to it. So it allows laying construction to add notes to things that they're seeing. So even outside of DLR to be able to put notes in, if we as a district want to put notes into this particular service, it allows all to be in one spot. I think Brian was really excited to see this because as we look at maintenance and trying to maintain our facilities, it just provides us with a wealth of information that may avoid future costs that historically before this technology existed, you'd be tearing into walls to find out what you were dealing with. So that's something that we did partake in.
Yeah, it is.
And then we did also just receive our video for the elementary school. So I think
Ready?
we would like to debut the elementary school video from DLR that we had asked them to make for us.
Laying in DLR involved instead of the outside source.
And the school is not named yet, so that's why it says Boone Community Schools, just for anyone listening
When are we going to work on that?
this summer.
Back up. Amen. Good.
I did hear.
Well, I saw The Office that time.
Yes, we're very excited to see that come to fruition. Also in the building projects update, I just want the board to recognize the change orders that are listed, but then in the supporting links, those are always going to be up to this date. So we'll just continue to add change orders to help you as a board keep track of the ongoing costs. Do you want to just click on one of those so they can kind of see how it will have a running total?
So the one for the main capital projects is the gym, HVAC and futures homeschool, and we'll put the road on there too. Elementary, I'm creating their own sheet, but we've only had a couple change orders, so that's a work in progress, but you can see as the gym, we have 4 already. HVAC, we had a couple, and then couple for the homeschool futures building, so.
So you'll be able to see when the date was that those occurred, and then again, the total cost year to date. And then at the top has the contracted amount, because I think as a board that it's always good to be able to see what we planned on and where it is right now. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware that that's kind of how we're going to keep track of all of that. When we do have the elementary project, the reason we didn't show that one is we will eventually have 20 plus tabs because of the different contractors on that project. So
I just have construct on.
yeah, so it will be pretty significant. So we felt that the other projects could be on one tab and the elementary could be on the other. So just wanted to make sure that you were aware of the difference between what you saw above with regard to this month's and then the year to date.
No major surprises yet.
No. Nope. Not at all, which we've been pleasantly surprised. And we've had a few like savings change orders too, which is nice. So it hasn't been all extra cost, which has been pretty great. So any other questions about the building projects update? Our gym is enclosed now. It's no longer raining in the gym.
Good.
So it's enclosed. We have some of the windows have been carved out. That will continue yet this week. So that should be done by the end of the week, I believe. So progress continues in.
Windows Monday.
Yep, Windows Monday. And then we have both our HSAP futures building and our elementary project have things happening as well. So far, we're on time so far. Yeah. I think the only, maybe the surprise would be the HSAP futures building. It's not official yet, but we will have a change order. There was a tile that we were not expecting to find when we were doing some of the dirt work.
And so much.
Hugely expensive, but something we were not expecting. So that's been taken out and already dealt
Yeah.
with.
The city one or?
They don't know if
They
it
don't
was a
know.
private 6-inch clay tile, so they just removed it from either side of the property line.
So that's probably the only surprise we've had.
Anything else? Otherwise, we'll move into your superintendent's report.
Well, this is Board Appreciation Month. So I want to start by making sure that I let all of you know how much we appreciate you as board members. This is an unpaid position for anyone listening. This is not something that our board members get paid to do. This is all volunteer time. And so that just makes their efforts that much more admirable, in my opinion. So Jeremy, thank you very, very much. Dr. Melhouse.
Thank you.
Pat, I'm going to have to get you yours when you're back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Matt. Cute. Thank you. Very much. And then a couple of other things. One, I just want to let you know, we do have a save bond sale that we need to have a special board meeting. Looking at July 25th. So one of the things, we can do it over the noon hour. We could, the location will be the central office for a physical
school.
space, or high school office for a physical space, but classroom
It'll be in the high school
or the high
attendance
school
office.
attendance office.
We'll have,
Okay.
more likely will not have air in that side of the building, so.
Oh, that's right. It's going to be July. Never
we'll be in
mind.
this part of the building.
It will be the high school. Yeah. High school for this physical space, but Zoom will be available as well. But July 25th, would noon work for everyone or no?
I'm here that day, so.
That okay?
Yeah.
It should be.
It'll take
quick.
5 minutes.
It's a bond sale, but we have to do it by the timing of the bonds, the save bond sale.
Yeah, we'll sell the bonds that morning.
I'm out that day, but
Are you out that day?
the rest of
At least
We
need 3.
have, yeah, we just need 3. So
I'm available.
excellent. Okay.
What day of the week? What
Monday.
month? Oh, yeah.
Monday.
Okay. We'll have a quorum.
And you say
so
we're meeting in the library, in the
high
front office?
school.
High school attendance office
Attendance
conference
office.
room
Got it.
at noon.
I have vacation on my calendar. I don't know what it's for though, so we'll see.
And then I just wanted to, for those that were listening to the meeting and heard the beginning, I want to make sure that I'm clear on what the curriculum was that some of the individuals were discussing. It was our sexual assault prevention program. This has been done every year. I don't know for how many years. Dr. Nystrom probably knows, but
Well, not Happy Bear. No, Happy Bear.
yeah. So,
Is this in lieu of that? I mean, okay. I read the letter.
but I want to just read off the learning targets so that everyone knows exactly what we're teaching, because there were some misrepresentations of what's actually being taught. So the learning targets are knowing examples of safe and unsafe touches, knowing what to do when touched inappropriately, and knowing what to do if someone makes me touch them inappropriately. So to the effect of, if something happens, empowering our students to know what to do in response and to know what to say. The book that was referenced by some of the individuals is that they were concerned about is not being used. So the book that was shared about is not part of what will be shared as part of the lesson. All of our families were emailed. It's very important to us that we're transparent on everything that we do. So our guidance counselor did email parents late last week and share all of the materials, including her own lesson plan, to share with our parents what was planned. When it became apparent that we had parents who were concerned and those that weren't concerned, any kind of concern, our counselor responded to that. And as a result, we have removed the book that was of concern. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that we always try to work in partnership with our families. That is always the goal, and it's always a goal to be very transparent. So there was another letter sent out reiterating again what was going to be taught, so that parents can review exactly every material, every lesson, all of the lesson plan, even the resources that are that have been shared and will be shared for parents to use on their own that won't be taught. Really wanting to do our best to be as transparent as possible, because that is a goal of our district, and would always encourage anyone who has a concern or a question to contact the building in which that concern is first, and then we will always do our best to answer those questions. So I just wanted to make sure people understood what was actually being taught, and to encourage anyone who has questions to contact our counselor at Page and Lincoln or Autumn Sealer, our principal, first, and if they need to contact me after that. So that I just wanted to make sure I shared that.
Autumn, is this what the children see? Yeah.
Yeah, it has not been taught.
Because it sounds, there are pages that sound exactly like Happy Bear. Exactly. Yeah. So has this been criticized yet? Okay.
So I think that's everything that I wanted to share. I just wanted to make sure that I was able to share that with the board and with anyone who is listening.
Okay, so if nothing else, I think that concludes this portion of our meeting, right? We'll perhaps